So to kick today off, guys, we're gonna go through 4 pairs. Basically, I think that at least the top 4 pairs, or at least 4 pairs that are gonna give us some good trading opportunities. Maybe just minus the DXY because we don't directly trade the DXY, but it's just awesome to have a look at the DXY as well. So we're gonna have a look at the DXY, Aussie CAD. We're gonna have a look at Swiss yen. We're gonna have a look at USD ZAR and gold. So to kick things off, guys, starting off on the daily, what we can see here on the DXY chart is that we are at a pretty weird area. So from a higher time frame perspective, we do know that these are some resistance areas up the top over there, some monthly swing resistance areas, and these are some monthly swing lows that price has violated to the downside and has broken back above. But what we can see happening over here is price actually breaking within the structure and then breaking back out of the structure to break back into the structure to the upside, if we're looking at this structure on our left hand side. But looking at the most recent price action on the daily chart, guys, things are extremely bullish. Now what we can see is price is creating higher highs and higher lows, and obviously things are still bullish as long as we remain above these previous swing lows. But let's refine things a bit. Let's mark some resistance, let's mark some support, get an idea of where we are within this market. So from a daily perspective, we have previous resistance there that price has broken above and broken back into. We also have previous support here that we also mentioned is the support that holds this daily uptrend to the upside. Now, if we go down onto the H4 for some more context on what the actual price action is telling us, what we see actually going on here on the DXY, what we can notice, guys, is if we look at relative price action, what was price doing before and what is price actually doing now, what we can see is that price is somewhat more corrective going to the downside than it was when it was making this move to the upside. So already we can see that this market, that the dollar index has the potential to make a move to the upside to complete some sort of impulse correction and impulse type of pattern. Who knows? Though what we can see already, just going from our higher time frame, we know that things are extremely bullish. We also know that things from a monthly perspective are still bearish. So this market does have the potential to resume the monthly trend to the downside by creating a larger time frame reversal structure before any downside continuation. So with all of that in mind, guys, we're going to be reactive to what the dollar index is going to do from this point onwards. We already know that there's a corrective structure, that we could be seeing some upside, though we know that long time frame, higher time frame directional bias should be to the downside if we're looking at things from a monthly perspective. So we're going to watch what price does at these levels here. Does price break back above the structure in a corrective manner? If so, then obviously something larger, something more complex is happening here, and we might be able to capitalize on some sort of reversal for continuation to the downside, at least managing our position by the time we get to these important swing lows. Otherwise, if we're looking for a buy position, things are looking extremely ripe for us because we do have some resistance up there. We do have the H4 support that holds this trend to the upside down there. So prices could easily bounce to the upside from these levels here, considering that price has been corrective to the downside. Now, what I'm going to be looking for here on the DXY is some reversal structures. Now, if I do see that reversal structure to the downside, then I might be looking to position myself obviously on the upside of things. And obviously, if we do see prices correcting to the upside as well, then I'm going to follow the nature of the price action. Where is price telling me that it wants to go? Are we correcting to the upside? Are we correcting to the downside? Do we have continuation structures? Do we have reversal structures? And depending on what happens here from these areas here, I will be able to see which direction I should align myself on the DXY. Now let's go into Aussie CAD. Now Aussie CAD, we'll start off on the daily, just speak about what's been happening from a daily perspective. Now from a daily perspective, we see that we have this previous uptrend over here. From this was a daily uptrend as well as a weekly uptrend. What we can see is that we have violated these levels of structure over here on our left hand side, and these levels of structure are still kind of holding, or could still hold as potential support. So we can see price is nearing those areas, so maybe we want to actually just take into account these areas here so that we know if we are positioning ourselves on the sell side of things, we should have an understanding of where we need to manage our position by the time price gets to that area. So if we look at the most recent price action, guys, what we can see is that things have been trending to the downside, and I guess the most recent price action is more interesting. So after we see this trend to the downside, what we see here is equal highs happening. We also see some equal lows happening over there. Now, an important thing to note, these equal highs have not been able to close above the previous closes of that daily swing low here on our left hand side. Now, if we drop down onto the H4, we'll get a little bit more context onto what's going on here. H4 structure, guys, was extremely bearish, but now things are beginning to get a bit juicy here on Aussie CAD. So we see H4 structure creating those lower lows and lower highs until we get to this point here. After we create this lower low, prices rally to the upside and give us a higher high instead of a lower high, guys, already showing us that things are beginning to change. So what could we be expecting from this point on? We could be expecting, obviously, one of two things. First thing being, we create a higher low and then we begin to start changing the trend to the upside, which is what I would hope to happen at this point, as I see more upside potential than downside potential. Why do I see more upside potential? We are at a weekly resistance, and if I do sell this market from these areas here, I would have to manage my position by the time we get to those areas there. Otherwise, there's a lot of sell side liquidity that rests above these levels, these swing highs, above these swing highs, above these swing highs here, that could be potentially taken out. So there is some upside here on Aussie CAD, and that's where I would like to align myself. Now, if we do go down onto the H1, I guess we'll see things just a tad bit more clearly, or with a little bit more detail as to why and where we're going to align ourselves going into the coming week. So if we can look at the previous price action, let's just also stretch these previous lows from our left hand side over there, these previous swing lows over here. We can see, guys, that where we are right now is a buy sensitive area. Why would this be considered a buy sensitive area? Is because we see a lot of buyers entering the market whenever we come in and around these areas over here, and as well as this zone that we drew from our left hand side. So we know that this is a buy sensitive area. So what will I be looking for on Aussie CAD to confirm the directional bias that we've established from those higher time frames? I will be looking for price to show me a reversal to the upside. I will be looking for price to impulse and correct, and so give me an opportunity to get into the market, or give me an opportunity to get in the market by a corrective structure. What kind of a corrective structure? A reversal, of course. That's what I want to see. So, guys, remember we say that if markets impulse to an area of interest, then we wait to see all of the sellers exit this market in the form of some sort of reversal structure. And obviously, if prices correct into a level of structure, then we are okay, or at least I feel a lot better to begin looking for risk entries, and then further reduced risk entries that might form along the way. So this is exactly what I'm looking for on Aussie CAD. I'm looking for the market to give me that buy bias structure so that I can involve myself in the potential buy. Let's go on to the next pair. We'll go on to Aussie Swiss franc and go up to the daily. Okay, guys, there is already analysis here. I guess this analysis is here from our live session on Saturday, though. Let's just speak about the price action that we've marked out. So first of all, we have this previous resistance over there where we see a lot of sellers basically coming into the market. How do we know that that's a lot of sellers, an important amount of sellers? All of these sellers that entered the market at those resistance areas were able to violate daily levels of structure to the downside. Now, we obviously understood that something fishy was happening in this area here. The moment we saw prices violating structure to the downside and breaking back within structure, that's always the first sign that something complex is happening in that area. So anyway, to get some more context on what price is doing here, let's drop down onto the H4. We can see the H4 structure has been violating previous higher structures, but look at the nature of how price was making this move to the upside. Price was somewhat corrective on this move to the upside, showing us some indecisive buying. We see a lot of decisive selling. When sellers are selling this market, they're selling it nice and impulsively. There's a stronger imbalance to the downside. And when prices are moving to the upside, there is prices finding relative areas of some balance within this move to the upside. So showing us that a lot of fair value, a lot of fair price is being met in this value, in this move to the upside. So guys, considering all of that unnecessary detail on the nature of this price action, or well, maybe it's necessary for those that are listening, that are really listening attentively. Though what we can also see is that I do have this corrective structure drawn out there after we've violated previous higher structure, and that also is a sign obviously that something is going on, and we are also approaching that daily resistance that we spoke about a few seconds ago. So what I would be waiting for on Swiss yen is for this market to give me an opportunity to enter on sell biased structure. So whether that sell biased structure comes in the form of a continuation like I just drew there, or that sell biased structure comes in the form of a reversal structure, we don't know. I have no idea, but I'm going to wait for that sell biased structure. That sell biased structure could come a lot more complex than we assume it's going to be, but nonetheless the market will give me an opportunity to enter on sell biased structure after whatever complex nature has happened, even if I get stopped out once or twice waiting for this move, guys. I will eventually, price eventually, let me just do this, price eventually will show me that it is violating previous lower structures and retesting, and by you, I just drew this in randomly, but nonetheless you will be able to see the nature of price action shifting in the direction of the bias that you've set for yourself off those higher time frames. Even if you get taken out once or twice on those early sells, a lot of the times, guys, you can be right on the direction and wrong on the entry. Why do we get times where we are wrong on the entry? Because banks need to generate the necessary liquidity to add their positions in before the market assumes the direction that it wants to assume. Yes, guys, we're playing in a very big field here. We're playing with a lot of people that have a lot of money, and a lot of money takes a long time to accumulate in certain areas, especially if there's a big move coming. We can even assume that this whole way to the upside was just some sort of whole lot of reaccumulations to the upside, but maybe one larger distribution structure that's just going to eventually break to the downside nice and impulsively. That's I guess something to just support the sell bias. So anyway, guys, we're just going to be paying attention to the price action, letting the price action give us a reason to enter this market on the sell side. Let's go on to the next pair. We're going to go into USD ZAR. Now USD ZAR, I was hoping it was going to be a little bit more interesting than it is right now. Just because I didn't want to see bullish price action just yet. I was still hoping to see a lot of bearish price action. But what we can see is that USD ZAR is essentially within some sort of a range on the daily. Let's just mark in those highs, mark in those lows. Now we know where we are in terms of a higher time frame perspective. We are at some weekly swing lows, and we are also at some daily swing lows. Now, if we go down onto the H4, we'll get a little bit more context onto what's going on. If we observe the nature as to how price was approaching, or how price even violated levels of structure, let's just look at price, guys. We see a nice sell off on the top there, nice impulsive sell to the downside over there. Then what do we see? We see a violation of a level of structure to the downside and a break back above that level of structure. That already makes us assume something bigger is happening over here. So we take into account this thing as a one large redistribution. for this move, obviously, that happened out of this redistribution to the downside. But if we look at how we violated levels of structure after we broke out of this redistribution, we've broke out of this structure in somewhat of a corrective manner, taking into account that we are at some daily support and weekly support, guys. So I did actually have a structure drawn in here, if I remember this properly. I know I had this support structure marked out from there to there to there. So there is the potential, guys, of us coming down to create a third touch. I'm just trying to eliminate the FOMO for anyone that felt like they missed the buy. Yes, we did call the buy, but yeah, the market is always going to give us countless opportunities to enter into any trade, especially if we're trading higher time frame momentum, guys. That's why we do top down analysis, so that we can align ourselves in the direction of potential higher time frame moves. Because imagine if we just hold a bullish bias, and this is, for example, or this whole area here, for example, is the turning point of USD ZAR. What does that mean for us? That means that if we hold a bullish bias, we can get stopped out a few times, regardless. No one knows what the market's going to do, but eventually when this market trends to the upside, it's going to give us countless opportunities to enter in the direction and scale into our winning positions as the price moves to the upside. So that's why we want to align ourselves with higher time frame structure. So nonetheless, guys, what I do see happening here on USD ZAR, let's just delete all of this previous stuff that we were speaking about, make things a lot more clear. What I am hoping for on USD ZAR is a potential third touch first. I don't think I'll be too interested in buying USD ZAR as long as we remain within this structure, this descending trend line over there. What I would hope to do is I would hope to buy low. So I would actually hope to see this market manipulate below these previous lower structures at least one more time, and then I would be looking for my reversal structures for moves to the upside. That's when I will be essentially starting to look for stuff to the upside. Yeah, so no FOMO, guys. I guess if we wanted to really be buyers, then we could be looking at this important level of structure there. Let's just draw it in with a proper rectangle, just so you guys can see this nice and refined. You might want to be waiting for prices to get above these levels of structure here, maybe before you start actually buying USD ZAR, because maybe the accumulation has happened the whole way to the downside, and this might just be the last break and retest before we see higher prices. Who knows? We're just going to be reactive and see the nature of the break, the nature of the retest, and see whether we should involve ourselves in the buy. Let's go on to the last pair, guys. We're going on to gold. Now we'll start off gold on the daily. So gold, I still basically want to take into account the same kind of structure that I've been looking at for a while, which is this resistance over here, previous support that now can function as resistance that we are approaching, and then as well as this previous support structure that we have tested and showed a reaction from. So that's that from a daily. Let's go down onto the H4, get some more context on what's happening here in terms of price action. What we can see is that price has violated a level of structure, previous structural highs. Let's get this drawing tool. Previous structural highs here on our left hand side. Price has pipped above those levels of structure and broken back within the levels of structure, and so immediately when we see something like that happening, then we assume something complex is going on. And if we look at the most recent price action, what we do see is a rally to the upside, and a rally that is equally met by sellers sending prices to the downside, creating equal lows. Immediately after we see something like this, then maybe we assume that structure might be preparing to change. So considering the fact that we are at some daily resistance in terms of those higher time frames, I would probably want to see prices manipulating structure on the upside, preparing for a long-term move to the downside, guys. So I'm going to be waiting, or at least I want to hope to align myself on the sell side of things, considering where gold is right now. And obviously, if I want to be a buyer of gold, then I should be waiting for prices to give me a reason to start buying gold. And where do I want to buy gold? I want to be buying low. Why do I want to buy high, buy into resistance? How much risk to reward ratio would you get if you had to manage your full position by the time you get to that resistance? I guess not much, hey? So I want to trade in the direction where I have an opportunity to maximize on the reward compared to the amount of risk that I'm willing to take on a particular trade. Considering the fact that we're at resistance on those higher time frames, maybe it makes more sense to align myself on the sell side of things. Also considering structure has been bearish for a very long time. And maybe the sell bias higher time frame structure that we do see here could continue to hold. Yeah, let's just open ourselves up to all of that kind of stuff. I guess maybe if we wanted to be a seller and we wanted to draw some structure in, we could also draw or mark out these previous highs here. Oh yeah, that also almost coincides with the structure that we drew here. Well, all I was just gonna say was just wait for that touch, and maybe at that touch you'll have the opportunity to sell high, considering where price has been. If we assume price is within a range right now, you are able to sell at the high of this range, and you want to be able to buy closer to the low of this range. That makes a lot of sense instead of buying into resistance and selling into support, guys. Yeah, guys, so I guess that's the analysis on gold. You know what you want to look for if you want to be sell bias, like I'm going to be sell bias within the next week maybe. And now you know what you should be looking for, what you should be expecting if you want to be on the buy side of things. Now guys, to wrap up this video, I would like to appreciate you guys. Watch till the end, club. I appreciate you guys for watching till the end. One thing that I want to say, guys, if you are not a subscriber and you got to the end of this video, I know automatically that you received some type of value. Yeah, go ahead and subscribe to the channel if you want to continue to receive the exact same value that you've been receiving or that you got in this video. Now also, just before we leave, guys, drop a like on the video if you are a subscriber already and you have received some sort of value from this video. And I'd appreciate you guys if you just told me what you wanted to analyze, and also what concepts you guys want to go in using the comment section below. Thanks guys, I'll see you guys in the next analysis.